Joining me now is the former Victorian Liberal Party President Michael Kroger and former Labor Minister Stephen Conroy. Gentlemen, great to see you as always. Stephen, how do you see the debate on the voice unfolding? It's been dominating Parliament this week. What's your read?
Yeah, look, it's disappointing to see, Leader of the Opposition double down with some of his rhetoric and his distractions. There's arguments he can make if he wants to, but I think his contribution this week was very shrill and unwelcome.
Michael Kroger, your take on it? The polling has shown that the support has gradually been on the slide. Do you see that as continuing, or is this where it sort of levels out a bit until they get right into the campaign?
It'll probably level out a bit, but I think it's continuing to be on the slide. I thought Pete Dutton, by the way, gave a very good speech, Stephen, not shrill at all. Any critic, this is one of the problems, any critic of The Voice is attacked personally, and that's not doing the Yes campaign any good, as we've seen in this referenda before. The problem in this referenda is it's an extreme referenda. It's not a modest change whatsoever. It's not just about recognition. Everyone agrees with recognition. It's about how this voice and the consultation process would work. And that's where people still have no idea of the details. And if the Yes campaign's to have any chance of winning, it's got to give people details as to how the voice is going to work. Otherwise, ultimately, I think the polls will continue to slip KG.
Yeah, okay, well, it's going to be a robust few months, that's for sure, Stephen Conroy. If anyone was in any doubt that this would be a robust campaign, I think that would have evaporated by now.
No question. To Michael's point, the most eminent legal minds in this country have absolutely said that Peter Dutton's arguments don't stand up to any credibility whatsoever. The fact that he says it 10 different ways and he's doubled down on trying to pretend that it divides the country on a race basis is simply untrue. What's happened here is that the Indigenous community broadly, that's not to say every single member, got together, the statement from the heart from Uluru. They put together a proposition. They've invited the Australian public to participate, to support this change. And what we know for a fact is everything that we've tried for 30, 40 years with every well-meaning government on both sides of politics have failed to close the gap on any of the other measures you want to talk about. And so the Indigenous community said, here's our suggestion about how we can achieve these things, which everyone wants to achieve. And to see it mired down in, frankly, misleading statements by the Leader of the Opposition is disappointing.
Michael Kroger, how much is at stake politically? I know there's a lot of other legal issues, the question about the Indigenous wellbeing that Stephen's raised, but on just the politics of it for both Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese, how does this play out given the result one way or the other for both of them?
Well, I think the answer there is quite a lot. More for Albo than Peter Dutton, because he's, the Prime Minister, he's leading the campaign. And if it loses, it certainly puts an end to the Republican referendum anytime soon, but it would call into question Albo's judgment in relation to the voice, where he could have adopted a more modest proposal either by deleting executive government, where I think it probably would be passed, or alternatively passing the voice through both houses of Parliament, putting a sunset of it for 3 or 5 years to see how it worked, and after that period of time, if it worked well and there weren't objections, then you could put it into the Constitution. But the all or nothing gamble he's taking, it's a bit like that teacher in Waking Friday who kept doubling his 2-up bet in order to break his bond with the New South Wales Education Department. It didn't end well. And Albo, this is a high risk strategy for him. A more conservative approach would see this probably pass. But he's putting up the most extreme referendum change in 120 years, and he's at risk, mate.
Yep, Stephen, just to you finally, we're almost out of time, but your reaction to that from Michael? He's saying it's such a high-stakes effort by Mr Albanese.
No, the person who will be diminished whether he wins or loses is Peter Dutton. He'll be seen as a wrecker. He'll be seen as someone who didn't want to reach out and embrace change. If he wins, he'll be that. If he loses, he'll be diminished because his campaign is didn't come through. But again, to Michael's extremist point, the chief legal scholars in this country don't accept your arguments and reject them, Michael.
No, they don't, Stephen. There's plenty of legal scholars that don't agree with you whatsoever. They don't agree with you, Stephen.
Michael,
There's this broad generalisation, all these legal scholars agree. No, they don't, mate. They don't.
I've got to wrap it up. Gents, nice to see you both. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for your company as always.